So I reckon EA's board were like sitting around their big board table, like smoking $1,000 bills.
Yeah.
Being like, priority number one for this year, gents.
Keep Laymen alive.
Keep Laymen Gaming alive. How are we going to do it?
I don't know.
Keeping Anthem alive so that the Laymen can continue to dump on it.
If they can give us memes, we are eternally grateful.
It's true,
okay? Especially with Fallen Order. Apparently, it's going pretty well right now, so we're a bit nervous. Okay, we're a bit nervous.
We have this news comes courtesy of Jason Schreier, who has reported that Anthem is actually sort of alive and kicking inside EA and Bioware, and they have very big plans for it. They're looking at like a complete revision of the game. Let's take you through this article, and we'll tell you what we think.
So guys, we're still in London. We are back at the Meme Factory next week, okay? So we were not going to do any more videos, but then Ralph was like, bro, EA.
There's a lot of memes to be had for this topic, but sadly we can't deliver them today because we are away from the Meme Factory.
Yeah.
But look, we wanted to talk about it because obviously very big news. Now, as we said, this news comes courtesy of Jason Schreier.
Jason Schreier.
This news comes courtesy of Jason Schreier of Kotaku. We'll leave a link to the article down below. Make sure you give it a click.
So we all know that Anthem has been the biggest meme of 2019, okay? I mean, a buggy launch. Yeah. It's just been a terrible product through and through in terms of shitty content, just horrendous bugginess, an empty, boring world.
Worstest.
And we've also found out from Jason Schreier, thank you, that the whole process, the last 5 or 6 years of development was just with, lack of vision, tension between the two actual studios working on this thing. It just seemed like from the very beginning this thing was a giant meme.
And everybody thought that Anthem was dead. Everyone was like, clearly they are just putting it out to stud. And if you look at EA's financial reports, they don't mention Anthem at all. A number of senior leaders within Anthem have been leaving. Ben Irving, who was a senior lead man, he headed off. And then the head of live service left like 2 weeks ago.
An Aussie.
Was he an Aussie?
Yeah,
Ben Irving was.
Yes,
right.
yes.
This led to a number of YouTubers declaring Anthem dead. It's something that Jason Schreier actually makes specific note of.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Repeatedly throughout his article, in fact. He likes to have a bit of a dig at YouTubers, calling out Inside Gaming. Can I say I completely agree? Inside Gaming, shame on you.
We would never do anything like that to, proclaim that Anthem is dead. We would never do that. Shame on you, Inside Gaming.
You sicken us.
We're on to you now, pal. We're on Jason Schreier's side, everybody. Not really, we've done that many times, but in reality, it was dead, and Anthem is dead. But I think the big question is Anthem next going to be not dead? Okay, now in this article...
Wow, Sam, I can't believe that is words that you just said.
Anthem not dead,
So, let's get into some of the detail, okay? Anthem is apparently being worked on diligently across Bioware. Like, huge parts of Bioware are being directed towards the rebuilding of this thing. They're positioning it as something like, Anthem 2.0 or Anthem Next, similar to something like No Man's Sky Next, where it's like kind of, we fixed the game, guys, and we're going to relaunch it.
And we've seen success stories like that. That does come, and it does sometimes work for people.
Critically within this, Jason Schreier says that it's unclear internally within Bioware whether or not they're going to do a big drop and like have it all and like, hey guys, surprise, new game, it's fixed, it's completely rebranded, it's a whole new thing, or if they're going to do sort of like incremental upgrades bit by bit, culminating in a large release, like that's their coming out party.
Yeah, I wonder if they would do that, because I think if they do smaller incremental things, will that keep the community there, or is it just better to be like, hey guys, look, we're just going to hold off and do a giant thing in 12 or 18 months?
Yeah, it's okay. We'll come back to that point because it's a really good point. The other thing that he mentions is it's not clear how people will pay for this product.
No one should pay for Anthem Next.
I agree with you completely. I think though,
it's like Fallout First. It's the same territory.
There are different case studies for this though, because if you look at something like Destiny with the Taken King was what made Destiny good, okay? And they charge for that, right? Destiny 2 with the same thing with like Forsaken, where they charge for that. To fix their games, people paid for that, right?
Sure.
The flip side is something like Final Fantasy 14, where they went through their massive rebuild, and then that product was free to all people who owned Final Fantasy 14, and off they went, right? So there are different ways to do it. It's not really clear how they're going to go. I think it would be very audacious, very brazen, very fucking ballsy for EA to charge people for a fixed version of Anthem. But hey man, it's EA.
It's EA, but I actually don't think they will do that. I think that their main goal here is, of course, just to get it into people's hands again, and if that is what they can do first, then they can look to monetize it later.
Interestingly interestingly, Schreier provides some details about the kind of stuff that they're looking at as part of this rebuild. He says, details on Anthem Next are hazy, but among other things, the game's developers plan to overhaul the loot, the quest, the social aspects of the game, the difficulty, the progression systems, and the world map.
Everything.
So pretty much everything, really, except the Iron Man. Like, that's pretty much the only thing that's going to
if they
stay the
take
same.
that away, the whole game is gone.
One person on the project said they're planning to change the game's entire structure. Right now, the entire world of Anthem is set on a single contiguous map. Separating the map into segments would allow developers to tweak and play around with these segments without worrying that they might create bugs and glitches all across the world. We're also looking to break up the need to go back to Fort Tarsus after every mission, said one person. Thank God.
Thank God.
And what a mission technically is. That was always a weird disconnect. We're trying to integrate the disparate parts of the game together.
Jason Schreier also goes on to say, now currently there is 2 studios working on it, one in Edmonton and also one in Austin. Now they're both currently working on it, but he did go on to say that it looks like the Austin studio is going to be the one that kind of take the game and run with it.
Which was always
solely.
the plan.
There was. After it went live, it was supposed to be just the Austin team. Now, of course, it's just the shit's hit the fan and it's been a giant meme, so they've obviously both worked on it. But half the problem with this whole game was they had both creative different visions and they weren't always matching up. And I think that's why half this game was maybe such a meme, because we didn't have a solid vision of what this thing was going to be. It'd be interesting to see that if one studio takes it with one studio head, that they can maybe just be like, look, this is what we want to do, and then in 18 months, like, we might see an actual solid vision from one studio.
Yeah, again, something similar to Destiny, where like the live team was always responsible for like saving the game after like the release team kind of like fucked it up. You know what I mean? Like that happened a few times. So look, those are the major beats of the story. I think there's a lot of people are going to look at this and say, well, it worked for No Man's Sky, it worked for Final Fantasy 14, it worked for Destiny. It's true. I agree with all of that. But I think every circumstance is very, very different. So for example, with Destiny, you had what was essentially fundamentally an excellent core gameplay loop. You just didn't have much content, right? And some of the systems were a bit like unsatisfying. And so that was kind of like easily fixed in the Taken King, okay? Then you had something like No Man's Sky Next, where the entire game was just foobar and like, there's just nothing there. It was a complete lie, whatever else.
It was a complete lie.
Yeah, so then that had to be rebuilt from the ground up and adding features in that were promised. Then you had Final Fantasy 14, which was just the worst possible collection of MMO ideas you could imagine. And that had to be rebuilt from the ground up as well. So everything's slightly different with how it's come together.
Yeah.
And I really feel like with Anthem, its core gameplay loop is pretty compromised. Everyone thinks, oh, it's fun to fly around and be Iron Man.
Yeah.
But I really challenge people to say, like, could you play 300 hours of that? Mechanically, with regards to its shooting, its melee combat, its hit detection, its enemy AI, a lot of that core stuff isn't there in my view. And so while they're doing a lot of work on that system stuff, that's cool. I really worry that they're not going to put enough focus on these core issues.
Yeah, look, I think with Anthem, it is ultimately a very barren product. It's fun to fly around, you're right, but after that, there wasn't a lot around to keep people there. Now, with No Man's Sky, I think there was still a dedicated audience still hanging on to that, waiting for that to be fixed, where from what I have seen, I mean, look, from Twitch and just the general community in general, I don't think that there's a giant Anthem community that's going to be holding on to this and hoping that this thing gets better. So that's the first thing. I think there's not a big community waiting for this game to get good. And secondly, with Final Fantasy or whatever, like there's a really strong IP that people have known and loved for many years. So they were willing to give it a shot also for the very fact that they just know and love Final Fantasy. And along with that, of course, they probably also love the MMO itself. It just needed, a lot of tweaks. Now with Anthem, like, I just don't see this really having the same shot as these other games have. I'm not saying it's not going to be potentially successful if they don't give it an 18-month window of just hunkering down and completely redesigning the game from the ground up. I just think it's fundamentally a different situation. So I don't know if it's going to have the same chance of success as the other IPs that we've spoken about.
I do think it has a more uphill battle. Look, I'm glad for people who are excited about Anthem and would like to see it back. That's good for them. I worry personally that, as I said, it's a very big uphill battle, and it might detract from other focus. And particularly stuff like Dragon Age and Mass Effect. Now, we know Dragon Age 4 is in development right now. There's a lot of people at Bioware, and a lot of them are working on Dragon Age. That's their focus. We also know they've just teased that they're in the early stages of work on Mass Effect. obviously this is going to soak up a huge amount of time and effort from these studios.
Or maybe just the
Edmonton
one,
and Austin.
though. Yeah.
Well, no, they said, Shry is saying that they're both working on it, and I really am like, do I want to see them go through the huge amount of pain to resurrect this product, or do I want to see them just go, okay, that didn't work, we're going to go to Mass Effect, we're going to make a great Mass Effect game. My personal preference is make a great Mass Effect game, but I know a lot of other people are like, no, I love Anthem, or I paid $60 and I deserve a good product.
Yep.
So I see it, I get it, I'm just nervous about this one. I definitely think, as you said, it's a big uphill battle, and I just feel like, I don't know, man. I really want a good Mass Effect game. I really just wish that they'd focus on that.
Look, if they end up doing that final transition and just giving it to Austin and it does free up other studios, then we might not have that problem. Maybe there's enough of a workforce there that they can put 100% into all 3 IPs. But I guess we'll have to see, as we go on, are they even going to acknowledge what they're trying to do? Because they haven't done that. This is all like Schreier doing some detective work. It would be good to see them actually go, look, you know what, guys, we know we fucked up, and this is our plans. I think that's the best first step to get everyone maybe ready for the next chapter of Anthem. But until we hear that, I think just dropping some new content one day and not actually talking about it, it's not going to be a good look.
Yeah, I do feel as though just the whole like, hey, we're going to drop a new game is just way too risky. I really hope they're going to do something incremental, because No Man's Sky did that and Final Fantasy XIV did that, and they landed in really strong places. Destiny was different because I think its core game was still quite functional. They just added more content. But if your core game is broken, you can't just like surprise, hey man, we fixed it, because that's just like inviting more disaster. I would love to see them do incremental improvements over time, culminating in a big celebratory release, but we'll see. And either way, it's good news for Laymen memes to know that we might get another bite of the Anthem cherry.
Oh yeah, we will.
That'll be beautiful. So we'll see. Keep it up, Bioware. Grats, Jason Schreier, for breaking this news. This is important news. We appreciate it.
I really appreciate that he also loves YouTubers.
Yeah, he really has a soft spot for them. He
does.
Hard. You can just read through the article, and every time he mentions a YouTuber, you can tell it's with affection.
Exactly right. All right, fam, we're out. Love ya.